Sure. So like a lot of people, they're like, "Oh, what do you do?" And I tell them what I do. And then like one of the most common responses I get is like, "Oh, my family's boring. You won't find anything interesting on them." And I was like, "That's not true." First of all, like if you think about as you go back each generation, how many ancestors you're gaining and how many opportunities there are for stories. So, you have four grandparents, eight great grandparents, 16 second great grandparents, and on and on and on. So out of all those people, you're bound to find someone interesting. But also, something that amazes me as I'm doing my research is the level of detail we're able to find about like seemingly ordinary people, and how even something that might seem small or insignificant, can really have a lot of meaning when you're learning about your own family and trying to connect to the past. It makes it more personal to learn like kind of their everyday stories. I've found diary entries written by ancestors, which is really powerful to read, like in their own words. I was researching somebody who was a technical engineer, and he wrote, there was an interview of him published in a magazine about elevator safety. And I just think it was really cool to share with the client of like, this is your ancestor's own words. This is the way he talked. And for me, my own ancestors lived in rural Virginia and they kind of had very calm lives, but I found articles of my great grandmother running home demonstrations within her house of how to organize patio furniture. And I just thought that level of detail was so fascinating to me that, to learn these things about people that you may or may not have had the opportunity to meet can really kind of bring connections and meaning, as you're doing research. Actually, a lot of the clients kind of like, well, I want to know how far back I can get, or the immigrant ancestor, to the United States and things like that. And then along the way, sure enough, I'm finding really interesting stories. Maybe they sometimes they're the ones committing the crime, but sometimes they're a witness to a crime and they're in a court case, or they have something interesting happen in their life, or in newspapers, especially like in the early 1900s, love to publish every little detail of everyone's lives, so you can really kind of find interesting things. I tell everyone, like, give me enough time and I will find some good stories of your ancestors, because it's universal experience, to find like some interesting things. And then another thing I want to say is that working in archives, you would just be like amazed at like some of the documents and things that were kept, that you kind of wouldn't really have a clue about if it wasn't for these archives making them accessible and discoverable. They could have, I know people that have gotten really detailed adoption files that has like descriptions of their ancestors at certain ages that checks in on them every year, or kind of employment files, that has like all their jobs for a certain company throughout the years. And I think, in addition to thinking of the major genealogical sources that are available on like the major websites, there's also, value in kind of like digging into the local archives and seeing what's there, because again, you might find a diary, you might find, pictures or something like that. So, this is another pitch to kind of be determined in your research, and don't really give up, because I think the stories are there. They're just waiting to be found.